Hey guys, so it's 2 a.m. and I just spent like 6 hours red pen editing this massive beast of 469 pages. Clearly it's dark out. I have to use a puck light to at least light up my face, otherwise it's just dark as hell and you can't see me. So excuse the glare on the no makeup face. So the editing went more or less well. There wasn't a lot of big changes, which is good. I mean, that's what you want at the end of the third draft. Most of the changes were like, why is there a weird space between this period and the closing dialogue quote? Or like just paragraphs or sections / sentences, just areas that might have been awkward phrasing that could be reworked to better phrasing. And that's like 90% of the changes, which is that's good. That's what you want to see at this stage in the game. There are 2 problem sections that are going to take more work than just 5 minutes of thinking and reworking it. And those are the problem chapters of chapter 19 and chapter 23. And those were the ones that I had the biggest problem writing, if you remember from the other videos. So no surprise that that's where the biggest issue was. Overall, doing something like this where you print it out and you start reading it as a reader and then kind of just getting those little bits that don't sound right, it's really enlightening and eye-opening, I guess is the best way to say this. It's like when you're writing it, you're in the thick of it, like you're in the weeds and you can't really see the big picture. You can see the minute detail and you're struggling to get out of a particular patch and onto the next section. And it's really hard to see like a top-down view. And that's where this particular style of editing really shines through. It lets you, it's like you're staying on a hill and you're looking down at the story and you can see where things either really work well or really don't work well. And that's what I found with chapter 29. Whew, it's like my brain it's so late, my brain's not working anymore. I've had so many cups of coffee and just, this brain needs to go to sleep. In any case, that's what I found in chapters 19 and 23 is that when I was writing them, I had to write them over and over and over again. Like I kept taking Jack out and putting Jack in and taking Jack out. And this top-down view really put light on the spots that I don't really want to admit, but they just didn't work well at all. So there were large sections that just have a big red line through them and just says, delete this whole bit. And there are some, in chapter 23's case, there are pages and pages of that, and that is painful. But that top-down view really lets you see what needs to go in its place. Like you can see everything else and it's like a missing puzzle piece. And in this case, I could see pretty clearly, and at least in the case of chapter 19, of what should have happened. Like the chapter 19 was where they're stuck in the room in the basement, and before I had it that just like one hunter was trying to get in and get at them, and then it does, and then Kate touches it and magic explodes. But reading it this way really made it clear that was not the time in the story for that particular moment to happen. What I should have done was made little small windows in the basements like all basements have, and since Kate's the smallest one, she should have climbed through, gone out and distracted the horde of hunters, because it shouldn't have been one hunter, it should have been a bigger threat than what it was. So maybe like a dozen hunters. She should have gone outside, distracted them, and had a private magic moment where she didn't have control of it and where it wasn't witnessed by other characters, which gives more credence to my later Chris feels betrayed because she kept saying, I'm not a witch, and I'm digressing into the story and you probably don't even want to know this part, but that top-down view really let me see that the part I had in there was wrong and that I should have had something else, and it was really clear what that something else should have been once I read the whole thing. So that's good. The other really good part is it's nice to get through something as big as this, especially with your own writing, and not feel like it's total crap. I mean, a lot of the times when I get done reading, I'm just like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like, I felt so good in the moment. And then at the end, I'm just like, this is shit. Why did I write this? Am I terrible at this job? But it was nice getting to the end of this and thinking, that's actually a good story. I would enjoy this. I mean, ultimately, the reason why I wrote this story is that I couldn't find the story I wanted to read, so I had to write it myself. But it's nice getting to the end of that and going, yes, if I was in another person, if I was me in another person's shoes, that doesn't sound right. None of this sounds right. But I would buy this novel if it was written by somebody else. That's a better way of saying it. So that's a nice feeling to come out of that and just go, wow, that's good. A bad thing I did find at the end of this, and this has got nothing to do actually with the writing, the mechanics of writing the story, but this made me realize that I have no idea what happens in book 2. This is clearly setting up for a sequel. I have no idea what it's gonna be. I feel awful saying that out loud because I'm writing a book and it very clearly should continue. It kind of like, the story does wrap up. I mean, you do feel satisfied at the end, but then at the end there's like this punch. Oh, there's something else. I don't know what that something else is yet, which is terrible. But that's neither here nor there, and that's a problem for the future. Future Deb is going to take care of that. My other problem chapter is chapter 23, and while I do have an idea of what needs to change, I am less clear on it than I was in chapter 19, which might pose a problem. The goal I have right now, my goal is to finish this by the end of October. In November, I want to personally start writing a new novel, like get that first draft out, participate in NaNoWriMo. But while I'm doing that, I plan on giving this sucker to, trusted readers, that first tier of people that I absolutely 100% trust, to read it and just get their feedback on it. Like, I'm not looking for grammar bits, like don't tell me I missed a comma here or I used "and" incorrectly. I don't want that. What I'm looking for them is tone. Like, did you like this character? Were you able to follow things? Like, were you able to follow the plot threads? Did I lay it on too heavy? Did I not lay it on heavy enough? How does the tone stay the same through the entirety of the novel? Or at least does it change in a believable way? And I'm not just shifting tone dramatically between chapters, which I don't think I am, but the tone definitely has a shift from beginning to the end because any novel does that. But that's what I'm looking for those readers. And then hopefully I will get their feedback back by the end of the year, because at the end of the year, that sucker has to go to my editor. And then it's on to draft 4, which should not be as long, as intense as draft 3 was. Draft 3 should not have been this intense. This was more like rewriting draft 1 over again because there were so many intensive changes and I added that second point of view. And it just, I don't know. This was an intense draft 3. This is abnormal. This should not have been like this. So hopefully draft 4 is just going to be this little bits working with the editor, getting things really polished up and ready for publication. I did not think I was going to be able to do this in this amount of time. Now, I did cheat a little bit in that I read it as a reader, like last week. Like, I spent the week, I had sick kids, so I wasn't able to do that much to it, but I was able to take this and just read it. And sometimes I think that's all novels, like the drafts of your novels need, is just stop thinking about writing it and just read it. I mean, we're all writers and we're in this to write things, but ultimately we're also all readers. So just taking that break and turning off that part of your brain that wants to change things and write things and fix things and just read it for the pure enjoyment of reading it, I think that really helps that top-down view I was talking about before. Seeing it from like that third party, that different perspective really puts things gives you the viewpoint that you need to fix all the problems. I realize I'm talking and I'm sounding like I know what I'm talking about, but I really don't. This is just trial and error. So if you're looking to get notes out of me, how to do stuff, I'm not the person to go to. I am doing this by the seat of my pants and learning as I go. So I sound super confident, but don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. All right, folks, I gotta get to bed or I am not gonna wake up in the morning. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me babble, because I feel like I babble more in the early/late hours than I do in the middle of the day. So thanks for listening to me babble, and I will see you guys next week when hopefully I am taking everything that I have just done and putting it into actual real, like just going through the file and making these little edits. And then you can see me struggle with chapter 19 and 23 all over again. Lucky you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.